Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Marked. Today, I'm going to interview Megan, and I just wanted to kind of start off asking you guys, have you ever felt like you were stuck in a pattern where you kept comparing yourself to others and it wasn't going well? Like you continually felt insecure or trapped in that place and had a hard time getting out of it? Well, Megan's going to share her testimony today and tell us how the Lord marked her during a season of comparison. So, Megan, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, tell us about your story.
Yes, so I 100% have felt that. My sister and I are only 15 months apart. We shared a room until, I moved out at 17. So very, very, very close, very polar opposite, different people, but we were still best friends growing up. And I felt like I always did compare myself to her. And I know comparison can come in many different forms, whether it's a sister or a spouse or even a parent with a kid or a kid to a parent, right? That's just kind of natural. We're comparing ourselves to other people and how they're doing, right? So I always felt like I definitely did compare myself to her. Even though we were close in age, she was still older, and she's amazing artist and musically very inclined, and in the ministry space could do the most beautiful prayer for 5 minutes and the person's crying and all this stuff, right? I was like, I wish I was like that, right? So there was a period of time when she went to ministry school in Bethel, and everybody was very proud of her, and she went and she did that, and it was awesome. And I felt like everybody kind of turned to me and was like, so what are you gonna do? And I'm like, well, I thought I was just doing my thing. I didn't know how to do something.
Expectation?
Yeah. So during that period of time, because we hadn't been separated that long either, I really sought the Lord of, okay, what am I doing with my life? I'm doing my normal job, my real estate stuff. I've got a place with some roommates, and that's my life. I'm just living the everyday life. But I know that there's something more. The Lord has given all of us something more to do. There's a grander mission at play, right? And so I was really in that season of seeking the Lord, and I'd been reminded of prophetic words or things the Lord's spoken over my life, but they're always on the shelf. That's such a beautiful thing, Jesus. I would love to do that someday.
Yeah. And you could pull it out anytime you want.
Yeah, someday. When I'm ready.
Yeah.
When I'm ready, it'll happen. And I was really struggling kind of in that space, really trying to seek, what am I doing? And you kind of feel that identity crisis on you. Sure most people have experienced a period of time or maybe several periods of time. It's just, I think it's that sign of that growing phase. There's the next level, and you're reaching that next level. And what is it? So I remember one night I was in my bed, and I was just really felt the Lord enter the room. I'm just sobbing on my bed. I'm like, I just feel so insecure. So insecure. Wow. And I remember the Lord, very direct, but very kind, which is you are waiting for the stars to magically align, or someone's going to say the magic words, and all of a sudden you're just going to have this surge of confidence and do all this stuff on the shelf that I told you to do. It's that is not going to happen.
Wow.
It's not going to happen. And he says, and if it does, you will constantly be relying on man's approval to sustain you through that. And I was wow, hits you, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's it, right? Which I'm going to read this scripture really quick. It's from Galatians 1:10. Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ. So this is in the NIV version. But it's I'm comparing myself and just only looking, to someone else and looking at only how I'm not like that. And then on the other hand, I'm waiting for someone or something to tell me I can be that.
Yeah, so it was you were waiting for permission, waiting for circumstances to line up for that extraordinary moment to be a billboard moment, bright lights.
I'm going to wake up.
This is it.
Yes.
Do your thing.
I've now, I think a common thing to think of is, okay, the Lord has told me stuff about ministry. Because I think that was the main thing is I was always in the business space. I was, doing business stuff, and I really excelled in that. But I was always looking at my sister in this ministry space I want to be that in the ministry. I'm supposed to be in ministry or something, right? I have all these words about being in ministry, but I don't look like that. And so how do I become that? And I think a lot of people are waiting for permission from a leadership. Someone from leadership in the church is going to come to me and say, would you like to do this? And you're going to, I'm finally invited, and now I'm going to be in leadership. That's not it.
Yeah.
If you're waiting for that, it's not going to happen. The Lord
Yeah.
doesn't I mean, that might be what it
Exactly.
looks like for you, but he's told me to do something.
Yeah.
And waiting for someone to give me permission to do it.
Right. And I remember like one of the things you stepped into when we started Lighthouses, and you and I were having this conversation, and you had the refrigerator moment, and we talked about
with
that
the
before.
girls, with the youth girls and stuff.
Yeah. So the Lord used that. You were waiting to get your refrigerator fixed to start your lighthouse or whatever. I remember that story and how you just at that moment stepped into and you started all like designing the card for the invitation and the graphic, and you just came alive to all the little things in the process that became so much fun for you, and that you weren't even dreading, like in your mind it was like, oh, it's too much,
I can't do this. I'm going to put together this whole ministry group thing, and I'm going to do it by myself and all this kind of stuff. And it was around that same time. And the Lord really, that from that day forward, it's kind of like, I have no excuses.
Yeah.
If the Lord's told me something, I can't wait for that emotional confidence to come. I just need to step out, and that follows.
Yeah.
Because I'm relying on his confidence, not my own and not someone else's. And if I'm waiting for my own or someone else's confidence, it's not going to come. Or if it does, it's not going to be in a healthy way that's going to be sustainable. So he really asked me to step out first, do what I said. And the confidence follows.
That's so good.
And then the peace and the grace and all that stuff comes. But you got to jump off the cliff first.
Yeah.
Then the parachute opens.
Yeah.
You don't wait for the parachute to open first.
Yeah.
Just jump off and it will open.
So what was a defining moment for you? Like, I know like in that room when you were crying, you felt the Lord come in the room. Like that was a defining moment that you'll never forget.
Yeah.
But what specifically changed forever for you?
Every time now I feel the Lord put something on my heart and I feel like, I can't do that. Immediately I'm in that moment again.
Wow.
That moment comes back to mind.
That's awesome.
I can't ever say that. I have no excuses anymore. Anytime I can't do that.
That's so powerful.
I'm back in that moment when I was in my bed crying. He told me to do it.
I love it.
I just got to do it.
I love it.
So it's even translated to now I'm doing worship stuff with the youth kids. In the beginning, I'm like, I'm not the leader. I can play the piano, but I'm not like a lead worship leader or whatever. And it's like, no, the Lord said to do this with these kids. So just start doing it. Even if you don't have it figured out and you don't feel confident, you know what you're doing, you're going to figure it out. He's going to show you what to do.
I love that because there's also a dependence on him in there.
100%. Yeah. It's not me.
Yeah. It's not about independence and being ready and perfectly prepared or without sin or without, having been formally educated or any of those things. Like it's about him getting the glory and you also having the blessing of looking back going, that was the Lord, not me. Like I couldn't sustain that even if I tried. I'm grateful for the grace in that season that he initiated that and he came through for me and he showed up and I felt this partnership with him.
Yeah.
And it's our yes. I mean, he's got it. He needs our yes.
Yeah. And in that process too, I learned my relationship with him looks different. My space in ministry looks different than other people's. And so my prayers aren't 5 minutes with all this beautiful flowery language. I love that. That's amazing. Mine are like, and the Lord was showing me like yours is like a sword. It's just direct and to the point. And that's also valuable.
That's so good.
Yours just looks different. You're going to lead worship differently than other people are leading, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You're not dancing around on this, for worship, you're sitting there contemplating or journaling or writing. That's still just as beautiful. That doesn't mean your relationship isn't as deep. Because I think that's another lie too I was hearing a lot was like, if you had as a deep relationship with the Lord as this person, you would also be doing X, Y, and Z. You would be dancing around. You would be praying for like 10 minutes for somebody. You would, all this kind of stuff. And it's not.
Yeah.
That's not the truth.
That's good.
That's not
really
indicative of your relationship with the Lord.
Yeah.
And how deep it is.
And I think we've all found our place comparing. I mean, that doesn't go away. Like, right?
No,
we're going to experience that throughout our lives as Christians where we feel vulnerable, insecure, and we just start comparing ourselves. And then, that is just not a healthy place to stay, but it's human, right?
Yep.
It's just a human condition. It's like, we're going to continue to get hungry, but we could also have bad eating habits and find ourselves in trouble. And so we have to readjust. Like, it doesn't mean that we're not going to be hungry anymore.
Yeah.
But feeling that insecurity is a common thing to us. We're going to have insecure moments. We're going to compare ourselves. So what do we do? And I love that your marked moment really solidified that. So when you go feel yourself going back to that place, you have that moment where God showed up.
Yep.
And it's a defining
I can't
moment.
deny it. It's one of those moments. It's like, I know that I heard God in that moment, and it was only from him.
So good.
And so it also is this faith building thing too of like, okay, no, I can hear the Lord. I do have a relationship with him. It looks different. And I do have what it takes to step out to what he's called me to be.
I love it.
And so I think everyone, if you're doubting that you have a deeper calling, you do. And if you haven't heard that from the Lord, he's going to give it to you. Or maybe you have and you were like me and you're putting on the shelf and I'm not like Pastor X, Y, and Z who can do this stuff. You know, I'm not like the missionaries who go out and they're so brave and I could never do that. Or I could never learn an instrument and lead worship. That's for them and I'm just going to clap my hands and support them. The Lord has a deeper calling for everyone.
So good.
It is there. And if you've heard it and you're just lacking the confidence, I hope this testimony brings freedom and truth that that's a lie. You can do it. The Lord's never going to bring you to a place that's dangerous or unsafe or that you can't do because he's a good dad, right?
That's so good. Well, thank you guys for joining us for Marked, and don't wait for permission. Step out there in faith and stop comparing because that's not a good place to stay. We'll see you next time.